Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Merge. We are in session 5. So you have made it through 4 sessions, and now you get to be a part of the most exciting session. Are you ready? Drum roll. Do that, please. We're doing finance.
That's right.
Is everybody excited? So finance, we're going to talk about the idea of you being a steward of what God has given you. We have time. We have talent, but today is about treasure. And so we're going to talk about money. And I am with 2 of my favorite people, and I mean that. These are 2 really good friends of my wife and I. This is Anderson, and this is Aaron Wilkins. And they are going to lead us through this. And they are going to lead us through this as 2 people I really respect. I'll give you an example. I sent a text to Anderson yesterday inviting him to a Montana ski trip. Yes. All inclusive will cost $750, which is a really good deal. And he texted me back and said, "Sounds fun. Does it fit in my budget?" I sometimes, being honest, can be a guy who says yes first, figure out budget later. Not these 2. And that's why I really respect them. They have a lot of good things to say and they live it out. And so I give you 2 of my friends, and I want you to go there with your significant other. Start having the conversations. We'll do some Q&A at the end because you will think of questions. Also, because we're in week 5 and you've already experienced 4 weeks of other content, we'd also like for you at the end of this session in your groups to discuss what are the big takeaways or big questions from not just finance, but also from the other 4 sessions. So that's what you'll be doing tonight in your group. Hope it's awesome. And I'm going to pray. So let's pray. God, your will be done with this session. Please lead all of these conversations. Remove all obstacles in the room, all obstacles in the way of a great conversation today, tonight, and for the rest of their marriage. And so just lead. And I pray that we'd all be open to hear what you want us to hear and not be scared to ask questions. God, you have to lead this. Your will be done. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Well, thanks, Simon. What actually Simon neglected to tell you about that text string is that he then followed it up with, "Don't worry about the budget, just say yes now." And you're welcome, Simon. But like he said, my name's Anderson. This is my wife, Erin. We've been married 5 years. We have 3 boys, Judah, who is 3, Henry, that is 2, and Bennett, that is 1. So we have packed a lot of life into that 5 years. But Aaron actually used to work here at Fellowship.
Yep, student ministry.
With Simon and Finley and Garland and all those fun people. And I currently work at JB Hunt.
And this is our 3rd time leading Merge, and we are very honored and excited to lead the finance section. But if you're anything like me, before we get started, I just want you to know that finances have not come easily to me. And so in the past, I've been scared by them, intimidated by them. But if you're anything like my husband, finances might come easily to you, and you really enjoy working the budget. But just to give you an example of how I used to be so intimidated by finances, and maybe to make you laugh too, our first conversation about finances as a couple didn't go so well because I completely lied to Anderson.
What?
Yeah. He's joking. He knows that, obviously.
First time here.
But just to be fair, he asked me point blank, maybe 4 weeks into dating, if I had any debt, and I said no, but I did have a little, and I said no because I was super scared and intimidated because I knew finances were really important to him, and I thought he would break up with me. So,
true story. Chances
are that you're doing better than me already, just being here in this class, so welcome.
Well, really, no matter where you're coming from, we really want to start and begin about why we're talking about finances tonight. Why is this important? And we really believe that there are 2 main reasons, 2 big whys about why we have this topic in Merge. And the first is conflict. Finances is going to be a huge conflict and can be a huge conflict between couples. There was a study done in 2017, so not that long ago, 1,000 married couples, and what they found is that money is the number 1 topic of arguments in marriages. Furthermore, 43% of people that were married 25 years or more, they started out their marriage in debt, compared to 86% of those that have been married less than 5 years. So what that means is that you are more than likely going to marry somebody with debt, and the two of you will, 86% chance, start out your marriage in debt. And so it's something that you've got to figure out how you want to address, how you're going to talk about it. Because 1/3 of people who say they've argued with their spouse about money say they've hid a purchase from their spouse, which we know dissolves trust in a marriage. Couples that argue about finances at least once a week are about 30% more likely to get divorced. However, 94% of people who said that they have a great marriage talk about their money dreams with their spouse, compared to only 45% of those who say that their marriage is okay or in crisis. And 87% of people who said their marriage was great also said their spouse and them work together to set long-term goals for their money. You know, money's not going anywhere, and it's likely to be a topic of conversation in your house. And so what we want to do tonight is to really help you set a good foundation and give you some tools and some common language to be able to have these conversations together.
Yeah, so the first why is conflict, and the second why of why we need to talk about finance is stewardship. And so basically everything that you have is the Lord's. He has given you all your resources, all your blessings, everything. And so we need to steward those in a way that is glorifying and honoring to Him. James 1:17 says, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father. Also, 1 Timothy 6:17 through 19 is another great verse, giving a godly perspective of money. And I'm actually going to read the Message version. It says, tell those rich in this world's wealth to quit being so full of themselves and so obsessed with money, which is here today and gone tomorrow. Tell them to go after God who piles on all the riches we could ever imagine, to do good, to be rich in helping others, to be extravagantly generous. If they do that, they'll build a treasury that will last, gaining life that is truly life.
And to really steward those well, we see 3 implications to that stewardship. The first implication is a theological one. That, like Aaron said, the Lord's given us these gifts, and it's our responsibilities to be reliable trustees of that money. There's a practical implication to stewardship, meaning you need something to sleep in. You need a place to eat. You need a place to sleep. You got to have all of those things practically. And then the third is a missional implication, that the Lord's given us this so that you can be a blessing to others, be part of the gospel being spread here in Northwest Arkansas, across the United States and the world.
So in order to help us navigate the conflict that money can create and the theological, missional, and practical stewardship of finances, we have 8 basic steps to help you give a foundation to begin financial conversations as a couple. And they're in your book, and there's some fun fill in the blanks to follow along with. So basic number 1 is always communicate. So if you haven't figured it out yet, communication is always really, really important in your relationship. So no matter what the subject in marriage and in friendships, it's always vital to always communicate and be on the same page. Because once you're married, it's no longer yours and mine, it's ours. We would like to say that it's Team Wilkins. Matthew 19:6 says, so they are no longer 2, but one flesh.
And even though that you're one flesh, there's still 2 uniquely designed people in this relationship, and one more than likely is going to be the saver, and the other is going to be the spender. If you're both spenders, we'll pray for you. But really, the big thing here is to understand that you've got to be able to have conversations about this. If you don't have conversations about this, what's going to happen is that the saver in the relationship is going to feel violated every single time the spender brings something new home from the store. They're going to hold a grudge. They're going to start to tally up how much the other is spending compared to the others. However, on the other side, the spender is going to feel violated when they're asked why they bought X. they're going to start to hide purchases. However, if you begin to have the conversations about who's the saver, who's the spender in the relationship, the spender's going to feel free to buy within the budget, and the saver's going to know about what's being bought, why it's being spent. It really comes down to honor and trust. You know, it's important to talk about all this because it comes down to how you view money. Being a spender isn't the right way to do it. Being a saver isn't the right way. It just really comes down to understanding and knowing each other and how they view money, having those conversations, and being able to talk about it.
Yeah, and just for fun, he is totally the saver in our relationship, and I am totally the spender. So spenders are not bad, I promise. But one of the ways that we've had success in our marriage about talking and making sure communication is open about finances is setting a meeting. And so it's a weekly meeting, and during this meeting, we review the budget and we see how we are doing spending-wise. We also discuss our schedule for the week, any appointments we have in the evening, which evenings are free versus the evenings that we have commitments, and when people are coming over for dinner or we have dinner plans. So then once we cover all the logistics, we try to be intentional about sharing prayer requests and talking about how our kids are doing. And it might sound funny to set a meeting with someone you spend so much time with, but life gets crazy, and sitting down to intentionally talk about anything takes a lot of effort. So we found it wildly helpful to do a weekly meeting, and honestly, wildly helpful for our finances and then just for life in general.
Yeah. Basic number 2, surround yourself with trusted advisors. I don't know if I'm the first person to tell you this, but you don't have all the answers. Even though you may be an accountant or a finance guru or you just really love this stuff, you need people that can review your thoughts and directions about insurance, buying a house, investments, budgeting, etc. Proverbs 15:22 says it best, without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. And there are 2 types of trusted advisors that we really think that you need in your corner. You need trusted, paid people. These are your insurance brokers. They're your financial advisors. They're your tax advisors. These people work for you. And you need to look to your wise counsel, which Aaron will talk about here in a minute. You need to interview these people and make sure you select someone that you trust and has your best interest at heart. Fully understand a product that they're selling before diving in, bring it up with your trusted wise counsel. But at the end of the day, don't settle for a great relationship with one of these paid people. You need them to show you the data and how the product is going to work for you. Don't just say yes because you both enjoy a good game of golf.
Okay, so trusted wise counsel. These people aren't necessarily your best friends or your parents or other family members or the people in your life that make the most money. Instead, they are the people in your life that share the same values as you do. They love the Lord, they love you, and they manage their finances well in a way that is honoring towards the Lord. And actually, before Anderson and I even met, I felt the Lord leading me to buy a house. And remember, finances are not my jam, not at all. And it seemed very intimidating to even start the process. But I remember the first person that I told was at the time the woman that discipled me, and her husband helped me so much, along with a couple other trusted friends, to walk through that process of title company, insurance, how much could I afford, and they helped me every single step of the way. So I truly could not have done it without them. I could not have bought that house. And that house has been such a blessing to our family. It was our house that we lived in when we first got married. It's the house that we brought our first son, Judah, home to. And now it's a rental property for our family. But without the wise counsel that I sought out, that was in my corner, that would have never happened. And so we can't stress enough that wise counsel and a group of people that you can trust is really, really, really important.
Yeah, that's good. So basic number 3 is to know all of the facts. See, the first step to understanding both of your finances is making sure that you have all the facts, all the details about it. And so we've got a great resource for you that's going to help you kind of walk through that. It's a budget, or I think at the top of this, it says a monthly cash flow plan. But really, at the end of the day, this resource is going to help you in your fact-finding mission. What it's going to walk you through is to start putting down on paper what you actually are spending month to month. So you need to understand your debts. What are those minimum payments you're making? What's the total of those debts? You need to understand what you make. You know, if you have regular income, it's easy. You get paid twice a month or every 2 weeks. If you have irregular income, it can be kind of tricky, but look at the last rolling 12-month average to kind of help be a baseline for you there.
And then you also need to understand your spending habits. So the form will take you through some regular spending like groceries, cell phone, eating out, clothes, all that fun stuff. And the goal is to know how much you spend in each category each month. But again, if you're like me and finances are intimidating or stressful, this could be a little overwhelming. So just take what you've spent in a week and you can multiply that by 4. And that's a great place to start. It won't be perfect, but like I said, it's a great place to start and will help you with knowing the facts so that you can also have a plan, which is the next basic step.
So basic number 4 is have a plan. Proverbs 21:5, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty only comes to poverty. So in college, both Aaron and I worked for a camp called Kanakuk Camps, and every morning at our leadership meeting, my director, Will Cunningham, would always end every leadership meeting and say, fellas, tell your time where to go rather than wondering where it all went. And what he meant by that was we oversaw different areas of the camp. We had different staff that reported into us. And if we weren't careful with how we budgeted our time through the day, we may not get to every area. We may not be able to touch base with every staff member. So it was wildly important. And I've taken that through my life. And if you twist that to finances here, it comes down to tell your finances, tell your money where to go rather than wondering where it all went. And you can only do that after you know all the facts that you have. So you've filled out your form, you have all the facts of where you spend in every category. And if you're like most people in America, you're going to get down to the bottom and the total is going to be in the negative. But that's okay. Don't freak out, because when you were filling it out before, you were really in a reactive mode. You were reacting to what you have done. But have a plan, this basic, is going to help you create a budget that is a proactive step to where you get to tell your money where it's going to go. So, you're going to go through here and you're going to look and to see, oh, do I really want to spend $500 a month at Chick-fil-A? Probably not. And so you want to make some adjustments there so that you can achieve your goals. So it's simple. You're going to create a budget. And I know that may be really intimidating to a lot of you, but let me tell you, it's just as simple as spend less than you make. That's the only thing you take away from the budget. Just spend less than you make. The goal is a zero balanced budget. And so, but also you want to look at the year ahead, right? People get married, they have babies, and they get older, and therefore you probably need some celebration line item, right? That says, hey, I'm probably going to have the honor to be a bridesmaid and drop $500 that you weren't planning on. But you want to be able to anticipate those things and to be able to plan for those for the future. Irregular spending, like during the summer we get our lawn cut, but that's only for a couple months, right? And so it's like, how do I budget for some of that irregular spending? Well, the way that we do it is that I look at, it's probably going to get cut 5 months out of the year. Santos charges us X, and so therefore I'm going to divide that total amount over 12 months. And every month I put it into an escrow account, just another checking account that we have, move money into that. But that's how I'm able to kind of balance some of that irregular spending. If you have gas in your home, gas only bills at, I think, a quarterly, and that's always weird to try to figure out. I would try to get on some kind of levelized plan with your electric company and your water company. That makes that spending less irregular, and so that you can plan for it. And then after you have it on paper, I'm a firm believer of putting it on paper, because you want to make sure, you want to be able to make adjustments, right? If you get all the way to the end of the budget and it looks like what you've spent and you're in the negative, well, newsflash, you don't have more than you make, and so you need to go through. And so make sure to whip out your pencil. You may have to go to Target or Walmart, get a pencil, if you have one of those these days, and make some adjustments to that budget. And it's a really great use of a pencil, because as we go on to further things, you're probably going to want to change your budget based on some of your financial decisions that you want to make together. Once you have your budget put together, you want to put it in some kind of system, right? Having it on a piece of paper is great, but having it in your pocket on your phone, like through an app with like everydollar.com or mint.com or YNAB, You Need a Budget. Those are three tools. They both have some quirks to them. They both, at the end of the day, they just help you tell your money where to go and track to it.
Right, and so the next one is get $1,000 in your checking account for saving as quickly, and Anderson would like to add as legally as possible. So get a second job, sell things on Facebook Marketplace, give up eating out or buying new clothes or going out for coffee, whatever you can do until you have saved $1,000. And this is important because life is unpredictable and things happen, and when you're working through the plan, this will help you with those unexpected expenses. This is the $1,000 that you will use when those things arise.
That's right. And so this first $1,000, it's in this basic, but it's also part of a great resource from Dave Ramsey. And he's a huge financial guru that has a lot to say on budgeting, finances. Typically, if I have a question about something, I literally Google how to buy a house, Dave Ramsey.
And fun fact, Anderson has actually called into his program once before to ask
Dave
him
Ramsey
a personal
took my
question.
call. I will not tell you what it's about because I say some funny things. So all that to say, on your screen, there are the Dave Ramsey baby steps, and get $1,000 as quickly as you can is number one. Baby step number two is to start paying off your debt. The big reason here is that debt is probably the single greatest hurdle to you being able to save and give and live like you want to. And so a resource that I don't know if Dave Ramsey coined it or somebody did, but it's called the debt snowball. And there's a great form that'll walk you through that, and your table leaders have that resource for you. But all it does simply is help you rank all of your debts, smallest to largest. Don't worry about the interest rate at this point. And you say, Anderson, what about the time value, money conundrum?
Nobody's asking that question.
They are, and I see you, and you feel heard. But when it comes to interest rate and time and all that kind of stuff, the biggest reason why we want you to rank smallest to largest and pay off your smallest balance first is that we want you to be able to celebrate quickly. You want quick wins, because when you start to take your budget and you realize, I can't spend $1,000 at Target all the time, right? And you want to make sure that you understand why you're making those sacrifices, and so that you have those quick wins of, okay, great, I got this debt paid off. Go out, buy yourself a glass of wine, just one, on a budget, and so that you can begin to experience some of that. Where Snowball comes in is that you take the minimum payment plus whatever you've been able to squeeze out of your budget once that debt is paid off, and take all of that money and roll it into your next highest debt. Then you're going to pay that off, celebrate, buy one glass of wine, and then roll all of that into the next. Like a snowball. That's how that works, if you were curious. So you want to pay off. Again, smallest to largest. Don't worry about the interest rate. Don't get wrapped around the axle there.
And the next step is create an emergency fund. So this would be equivalent to 3 to 6 months of expenses. So take how much you make in a month and multiply it by 3, 4, 5, or 6, and that is what you need to save. And this might seem crazy because it will be a lot of money, but things happen. There's job loss, there's health emergencies, there's expensive repairs on things that are unexpected that break down. And so having an emergency fund can help really alleviate stress caused by those unexpected life events. And actually growing up, I am fairly certain that we did not have an emergency fund, and I just always remember money being such a stressor. And obviously life happens and things happen, and I cannot tell you, in the amount of time that we've been married, 5 years, I have been so thankful for our emergency fund because it alleviates stress in really stressful situations. So it's a great step, and you need an emergency fund.
Yeah, that's right. And if you remember back to baby step number 1, it was get $1,000 as quickly. That's the start of your emergency fund.
Yeah.
So when you get to this baby step, you already have hopefully $1,000. You haven't had to dip into it. And no, the new iPhone is not an emergency. You don't take that money out for that. You want to roll that $1,000 into your emergency account and start to build on that. Once you have your emergency fund fully vested, then you get to move on to the next baby step, which is investing. And the first thing is to invest in some of your company 401ks or profit sharing programs. And you might say, Anderson, my company offers a 3% match. Should I do that before I get to this baby step or at this baby step? And my opinion, just my opinion, is that you should fund up to your company's match before you get to this baby step, unless it's preventing you from paying off debt. Meaning, if you have an extra $100 and you want to fund that 3% every pay period, but you're not paying anything extra on your debt, take that $100, pay off your debt, right? So there's a balance that has to happen. On one hand, it is money, part of your compensation package. On the other hand, we're trying to help you develop habits and attitudes to really pay down debt, to not get into debt, be debt-free so you can live and give like no one else. The next baby step after investing first up to 12%. Once you get to this step, you want to kind of take that retirement to around that 12% threshold. There's a lot of great resources. Again, search how much should I invest in my 401k. Dave Ramsey, he's got a calculator. It's pretty incredible. The next thing is if you plan on having kids or already have kids, you probably want to start a college fund. We met with our financial advisor, and I think his calculator estimated that the University of Arkansas is going to cost
too much.
like $8 million or something. No, it was like $500,000 in 20 years. And I'm like, that cannot be possible. But at the end of the day, you want to start having those conversations, put together that college fund. After that, then you're investing around that 12% mark. You've got money going into a college fund if that's part of your family goals and plans. The next thing is to start paying off your mortgage. Start paying off that house. And then the final step in the Dave Ramsey baby steps is to give generously. And if you look back to your budget that you created, the first budget line item that he has is giving. You want to be able to give something, regardless of how small it is. You want to start with that. And then when you get to the end, you're going to be in a position, you're going to be debt-free, you're going to have your house paid off, you're going to have an emergency fund, you're going to be investing for the future. With all that extra money that you have, you're able to now give like no one else in the future. As you can tell, we started out with giving, we're ending with giving, because if we don't realize where our money is coming from as a gift from the Lord, that He's entrusted us to take care of for our family, to help people, further the gospel, money can quickly become an idol for us if we want to store it for our own purposes, and we lose sight of really where it came from and its true purpose. So the goal, again, of all these baby steps, of the basics that you have here, is to get control of your finances, put you in the driver's seat of your finances, pay off your debt so that you can live like no one else now on a budget, not spending more than you make, and that you can live and give like no one else in the future.
Mm-hmm. And just so you know, that was all basic number 4. So basic number 4, having a plan, is a huge part of taking control of your finances, and really, really important to take the time and do the work to make the plan. So he is the plan master. So if you need help, you can also reach out to us. We'd love to have you for dinner and help you with the plan.
Well, and I would also say, to follow that up with the plan, it is a huge part, because plans, like really good plans, don't come about easily. It takes time, it takes investment there. But I'll be the first one to tell you that, I haven't done it because I haven't done it yet. We're probably going to be over in some categories in our budget this month, right? At the end of the day, we're working our plan. We've got tools in place to track it, but we're not perfect. We got 3 small boys that eat like a lot of food, and we got to figure that out, right?
Yes.
Snacks on snacks. And so just know that you've got a plan. You're going to work it. You're going to be over some months. Maybe create some thresholds there for you. Don't get discouraged. Be encouraged that you have a plan and you're working it.
Yeah. Absolutely. So the next step step or the next basic in your book is never compare yourself to others and advertisements or media. The verse in your book is 1 Timothy 6:6-8, and it's spot on. It says, "Now there's a great gain in godliness with contentment, for we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content." And honestly, guys, social media, I'll be the first to say, like, I love it and I hate it. And I love it because I love seeing what my friends are doing. I love keeping up with them. But it is so hard to not get sucked into everybody's highlight reels. And then all the advertisements are catered to you and what you love and what you like. And they make it so easy to buy things even off of social media right now. And so I think it's really, really important to remember that comparison can just completely steal your joy. Teddy Roosevelt said, "Comparison is the thief of joy," and it's so true. And so you really need to fight that desire for more.
Yeah, that's a great example. I mean, it's summertime right now, and people are posting a lot at the pool, at the lake, and scrolling through Instagram, found a picture of a friend, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. They're on the lake today, cute family picture. And then I start thinking, oh, they have a boat? And I'm like, oh, that's a nice boat. And I start looking up this boat, and I'm like, oh, that's like $50,000. And I'm like, how can they afford a boat like that? I want that job, right? Like, be content with what you have. Don't compare your situation to someone else's situation. You have no clue of how they got to that situation. And at the end of the day, you're just going to be like a really cheesy fiction writer, storyteller in your head. It's going to make sense to you, but probably no one else. And if you don't get control of your mindset when it comes to your finances, your budget, not comparing yourself, understanding your situation, it's not going to get easier. Trust me. The boats get bigger, the cars get fancier, and you're always going to want the next new shiny object or, Instagram Chinese swimsuit ad.
That was totally my COVID purchases.
Yeah, they don't fit at all.
Don't fit right, y'all.
They won't return.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. But I will say too, on the social media piece and the advertisements, is we have known people that have completely deleted their apps when they've been trying to really stick to the budget, or honestly even just friends that we have that are just can't handle the comparison game. And so if that is you and you know that you struggle with that, maybe consider giving it up for a season. Yeah. Okay, so the next basic number 6 is budget money for each person to spend. I think that this story is hilarious, and Anderson will say that he told me in advance that we had $50 to spend each month at the beginning of our marriage, but I swear to you that he did not tell me, because it was about 6 months into our marriage, and Anderson gets all of these packages at the door. It's like Gap, Banana Republic, J. Crew, and I just wait for him to get home because they have his name on it, and he starts opening them up. It's like all this new summer, spring clothes, and I just was like looking at him like, what where did this come from? And I start crying and I was like, how did you buy all this? Like, what money did you spend? And he's like, we've got $50 a month. So make sure you do budget money for each other to spend, and make sure you communicated that said budget of what you can spend a month, because you might have a wife and a puddle of tears if you don't. But personal budget items for us really include anything outside of eating and gifts and household items. It's personal clothes and shoes and random stuff on Amazon, or the Chinese swimsuits on Instagram, getting my nails done. This is the account, though, you really need to be careful of, because it never fails. It's the account for us that goes the quickest. And so you need to really watch it, and cash would be a great option for this budget of the personal spending, but honestly, with online shopping, that's really difficult. So again, another plug for set a weekly meeting, and that could be a time that you just make sure that you're not overspending personally.
So basic number 7 is don't let your income determine your lifestyle. The core here is that you need to be in control of your lifestyle. But at the same time, you can't work as a barista and live like an NBA star. As you get older, yes, your income is probably going to increase, most likely, but don't buy a house or a car based on that future income. You need to buy it based on your current income. I know you may be a fledgling lawyer or a fledgling doctor, and you're thinking, I'm going to be making X, I can afford this crazy big house. Well, a lot of things happen along the way, and that may not be the most immediate next career path that happens, or you may not be making that much, and you don't want to become house poor or car poor. You want to make sure it all fits within your current budget situation. And then you also need to ask yourself, am I wanting to buy those things? Am I wanting to kind of be a season ahead or to have those things because I'm trying to project an image or I feel like I need to? And really what we talk through is our values need to drive our lifestyle. And so when we talk about that, when we look at what we value and how that reflects in our budget is that we value vacations as a family. And so we value one, just Aaron and I, to where we get to get away. And then we value one as a family to where we get to take our boys. We're actually doing it next week, taking our boys to the beach. We value retirement. And so we make sure to put money towards that retirement goal because I would honestly like to stop working for a paycheck and be able to do things with my family and that we love doing. But to achieve that means we have to deprioritize other things in order to value what we've determined is a part of our family's priorities. And so that means that we don't value new cars. Yes, we have a car and we have to have enough seats for 3 car seats right now. And, but that's something that we don't value as much. I love to play golf, but I don't have a country club membership because we figured out the things that we value are more important than that. We don't really value going out to eat a ton. Like we'll go on a date night. We may take our kids to Chick-fil-A. But other than that, we try to eat in the house. And Erin does a great job. She shops at Aldi and Sam's and Walmart and ends up saving us about 30% because I ran the numbers, over picking up at like one place. And it's not because that we're poor, it's just that we don't value name brand groceries. And so we take all of that money and we put towards the things that we do value. That's how we're able to be in control of our finances and tell our money where to go. But I don't want you to hear that I'm prescribing that that's what needs to be your values. What I am prescribing is that you need to have a conversation with your fiance if you are
boyfriend or girlfriend.
Yes, and so you need to have that conversation to figure out what are y'all going to value in your family.
Yeah. And so the last basic number 8, make giving a priority. And I feel like we've said this a ton of times, but the first line item should be giving in your budget. And if you don't make it a priority now, trust me, it will never get easier. So start out with whatever you can. Maybe it's 2%, maybe it's 5%, maybe it's 10%. Whatever it is, just give something and reevaluate it when your income changes or you feel the Lord leading you to reevaluate and give more. Work the Dave Ramsey baby steps. They are there for a reason and they work. And the whole system is designed so that you are debt-free and you can live and give like no one else later. And actually, being in vocational ministry, Anderson mentioned I worked for Fellowship, and I actually was in ministry for 10 years. And I just remember always looking at the families that could give to random things like students going on a mission trip, or this family needs money for an adoption, or whatever it was, just anything outside of their regular tithe. I always thought, gosh, I cannot wait to be that person that can give like that. And I remember sitting down with Anderson one day and just like talking about that goal or that idea that I would love to just give to students that want to go on trips and all of that stuff. And Anderson, being Anderson and the great planner that he is, he was just like, well, let's plan for that. And so something that has been huge for us, it's so little, but we just set aside a small amount of money each month, and it collects in a fund. Thank you. I cannot find that word. Collection of fund, so that when students do write us letters, we can give, and when our friends are adopting, we can give, and that random giving has brought us so much joy. And so I really honestly can't stress enough that if you start giving what you can, you will never regret it. It'll bring you a lot of joy, and it's worth it, worth the sacrifice.
So those are the 8 basics. You made it. Hopefully.
Give yourself a pat on the back.
That's right. For some of you, you're loving this. For the other ones, you're when is this going to end?
That would have been me, by the way.
But hopefully through this, you've been able to add some tools to your premarital tool belt, if you will, and a common language between the two of you to be able to talk about these basics together as a couple to help manage the gifts that you've been given. However, I will say that managing those gifts is a lot easier when you have a relationship with the one that gave you those gifts. See, we can sit here and teach you how to manage your finances in a way that honors God, but it doesn't really matter much if you don't know how much God loves you, so much in fact that he gave his son to trade your baggage so that you could become righteous. And he wants to know you, and he wants to know you to know his love for you. You might have said a prayer a while back, gone to church your whole life, but if you don't have a close relationship with God, talk to your table leaders. Once you see and experience how much he loves you and wants to know you, your relationship towards him is going to grow, and so will your desire to honor him with your finances. Thanks for having us in your homes. We are excited and champion your financial journey together. Like Aaron said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. I'm sure our contact information is somewhere.
You can track us down.
And we'd love to just answer questions or anything that you have.
Thank you.
So, session 5, we made it. We made it through, and everybody patted their backs. You've clapped. You're either very engaged, because he's right. He's right about the 2 people that could be in the room. You're either very engaged or you just don't care yet. But what they're asking and what I'm asking and what matters is that we start to care and start to have the conversation. That's why you're in merge. It's good to communicate, which we learned in session 2 in conflict and communication. So you're learning how to communicate. And so this is a very important theme. I see it in my wife and I's relationship also. And so start the conversation. So tonight you get to do that. And I have a few questions. They have covered these questions, but I just want us to do a recap real quick. So I'm going to ask them over to make sure you catch it. So these are good questions that a lot of people are asking. Before I ask these questions, I have a very important question for Anderson.
Yeah.
Are we going on this ski trip?
I'm still trying to figure out the budget. I mean, I got to look at the budget, man.
Say yes first. Look at your budget later. Is that
Simon,
what you said in this?
I need you to rewatch my video, please.
Guys and girls, I need this just as much as you. So just know. I'm glad they're doing this session. And I have learned a lot from them as friends. So I hope you did also. But here's a few questions. Y'all ready? Here we go.
Let's go.
Question number 1. Should we merge our bank accounts? Go.
Yes.
Yes. I'll let you take this one.
So actually, I have my best friend. She lives in Indiana, and I actually asked her if I could mention this, and she said absolutely yes. So they have been married for 13 years. And it was only this year that they started the process of merging their finances. And so I have seen firsthand what not merging your finances can bring to a marriage. It's tons more complicated. There's a lot more conflict that arises even when finances can bring conflict anyway. And so we would say absolutely yes, because again, Matthew, what is it, Matthew? The 2 become one flesh.
Yes.
That is so true. And so your finances should be one as well, because you are one.
Yep. That's right. And I think on timing on this, if you're getting married, it's not one of the checklist things you need to do before the wedding.
Yeah, good
it's
point.
going to be okay if you're out a couple days. Come back, get everything in order. If you still have some time before you go back to work, I would. It takes a little bit of time. You got to have these documents. You got to close accounts, open them, that sort of thing. So no, it's going to take a little bit of time. Call ahead. There's going to be a lot of forms you have to do. We've had that mistake. So Erin has a small business. She makes cookies, Sweet Bite Baking Co. So if you're getting married,
very good cookies.
Shameless plug.
Very good.
But we were trying to close an account and we didn't go with the right stuff. It was frustrating. Took longer. 3 screaming kids all through the bank.
Call ahead.
Yeah, call ahead.
Okay. Another question that a lot of people have asked me, and so I'm going to present it to you. Is it a good idea to buy a house? And recap real quick.
Yeah.
What makes it a good idea or not?
Yeah, great question. So you need someplace to live. Okay, that's what it comes down to. And in Northwest Arkansas, it is a great investment to own a home. However, each financial situation is different. You don't want to become house poor. So if you're at a point to where you're not making enough to be able to save for a down payment, and even if you were to save for that down payment, you'd be struggling to pay a mortgage of $700, $800, whatever that may look like. It's okay to rent. There are some people that are going to tell you like that renting is throwing away money and all this kind of stuff. stuff. And well, maybe on one hand, somebody can make an argument of that, but I would rather rent than be upside down and in debt on a house that might get foreclosed. I may have to move out of it, cause more stress and anxiety in my life. I would say the biggest thing here is to seek your wise counsel, right? And make sure that you've got people that have been in that season before, that you trust, that you can give your financial situation to. They can help you run through the numbers. I would say do not buy a house at the max of what the lender says that you can get. Obviously, they make more percentage of you paying off your loan the greater it is. Obviously, your real estate agent is going to make more of the larger the house size that they can sell you, right? A good rule of thumb is about 25% of your take-home pay. So after Uncle Sam takes his cut, what is that kind of 25%? And that's the sweet spot that you want to be in. It's trying to prevent you from becoming house poor. You could have a really great house. You could say, this fits within my budget, but you can't take a vacation. You can't save for the future. You can't go out to eat. That's not a good place to be in.
Yeah, and so house is a big purchase. Rent or buy, good question to be talking about. Also, we all need vehicles. We need to get places.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a bike, maybe it's a car, but you need to invest in something to get you places. So what would you say about leasing, buying, getting a car? What's your thoughts? Opinion?
Yes. Well, if you work from home like I do, I think it's not a big deal right now. But no, in all seriousness, I would say rather than leasing, you'd want to buy a vehicle. And the biggest reason here is that, first of all, you never really want to buy a depreciating asset, right? Something that as soon as you start using it, depreciates in value. Owning a home here in Northwest Arkansas, home ownership is increasing in value. That's a great asset to have. A car is always depreciating. You actually can write off the depreciation value. That's how much it depreciates. So leasing a car is basically renting a depreciating asset from someone else. So it's kind of like a double compound. It's not a great financial situation to be in, because at least you would have something that you own and that you could sell. In a leasing situation, you don't own anything other than a note that you pay. New versus used car. Again, financial situation. If you are in a great financial situation, you have the cash, you have what we call disposable income, which we hope to get someday, and that you can afford that. We don't want to tell you not to do that. But like for us, our situation, we don't value new cars like we talked about. We put that extra money towards things that we do value. And so we recently had to upgrade. She had a small SUV, wouldn't hold 3 car seats. That's a struggle. And so we bought a van. And so I did a lot of research. We bought a van that was only like 2 years new, but we saved like $15,000 on it just because it was 2 years old, right? And so those are some good tips to be able to help you purchase those vehicles. Again, if you have the income to do it, I'm not telling you not to, but at the end of the day, there's some savings to be had with a used car.
Yeah. And what I heard you say is that discretionary income will come right after our Montana ski trip. Don't say anything. Let's go. So here's the last question, a little bit controversial. It's just this idea of 10%. The Bible talks about, we've taken it as the church, as what the Bible said about tithing. We've taken it as there's this 10% rule there. Mm-hmm. And I just want to hear what you think about being a good steward when 10% given to a church, but you're in debt.
Yeah.
And times are a little bit hard financially. How would you answer that? Should we do that?
Yeah. The heart here is to give something. I think Aaron talked about that really you want to start giving something. And it really goes back to a heart issue, right? To where if it's going to be really difficult for you to give 1% of your income, now, for some situations, that might be really difficult. But for most situations, I think we can all part with about 1%. And if that's really difficult for you, I think there's a heart issue going on of not understanding clearly of where this money comes from, that you've been that you've been given this, and that you are entrusted with this, and you need to be able to be a good steward to that. And so that means that giving to charities in Northwest Arkansas, that's giving to organizations that you feel that have given to you, just giving something back to show your gratitude and towards that. It doesn't have to be 10%. If it's 1%, if it's 2%, I think what Aaron said is to review that.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like 10% though is a great place to start, because I feel like it's hard. I feel like when you're working through the steps, it's going to be hard to want to ever increase that. And so I would suggest start with 10%. Really try to make that happen, and then later on you can increase that. And if it's super difficult, then you can diminish it. But I would say 10% is a great place to just.
It's a good goal.
It's a
right?
good goal, yeah.
But don't feel like you have to be there. But like I said, as your financial situation changes, as you get out of debt, as you have more income, review that and try to continue to increase what you give.
Yeah, I feel like Anderson and Aaron have given us a lot to think about, and we'd love to end this Q&A with just the question of oneness in marriage. Is from session 1, God's plan for marriage has been unification, to be unified, to be one, so to have these conversations. And so I guess to end this, give us step 1. How would you even start this conversation? How do you even start this? What's the best first simple, easy next step?
Yeah, that's a great question. You want to take that one?
Well, honestly, the first thing that comes to mind, because I had mentioned our first financial conversation, I lied to Anderson, but obviously down the road was honest with him. But I think the first way to start this conversation is just to be honest with each other. And so after this, take your drive home to talk about how did that make you feel? How do you feel about finances? Because finances may not even be something that y'all have talked about before. So I think starting with how you feel is important, and really listen to each other. And then from there you can work through your homework, which I think is really helpful. And if I remember right, there is a lot of homework to this, but just take it one step at a time. But be honest, be open, and just know that you care about each other, and hopefully you love each other, and it'll be okay.
Yeah, and a good next step is what you're about to do.
Yeah,
you're going
absolutely.
to sit with your mentor couple, and you're going to talk through questions. So we've provided questions for you. Anderson and Aaron we have some resources. They talked about resources really fast, but we have them. We will send those resources to you. In the Merge workbook, you'll have on session 5, you will have opportunities to learn through resources and homework questions. And so we've got it all there for you. And Anderson has offered we will give you his phone number. We will give you Anderson's phone number.
I will make you cookies, and Anderson will walk you through the budget.
Double bonus.
Man.
You get cookies,
wow,
maybe free, I don't know. And he will help you with your budget if you need that. So the resources are there. You have your mentor couple with you to talk through this. Next step is get the conversation going. And if you have a great conversation about this and you have some time left over, the first 4 sessions, any questions that are just lurking, sitting out there that you want to talk about, go there also. So that's it for session 5. We'll see you next week.